It's one of those projects that really does make me happy, and I think that's important. Uh, Architecture moves from being in your head, in your mind, in your imagination, onto paper, and then it gets built. And what is beautiful about architecture is when it's built, it's a building, it's full of people. And only then does it become architecture. And to go back to the library, we did it just recently, 6 months ago, the anniversary, and to see that full of people, all sorts of people, young people, old people, men, women, all sorts of people, everyone really using the space, enjoying the space, using it in different ways. Some are sleeping, happens in libraries. Some are chatting, some are sending messages, some people even reading. Um, that makes me really happy. And then to talk to the people who work there, who run the place, who look after it, and experience that emotion, that emotional attachment that they have to this building, these walls, these bricks, these floors, these beams. It becomes more than just a structure. It becomes what architecture really is. It's a spiritual place that people make in their lives as they use it. That makes me really happy. Just being there for some hours that we were last trip, seeing it being used now, seeing, first of all, arriving early in the morning, really quite early in the morning, and the queues outside. I've never seen a library that has queues outside. You're queuing up, standing in line to get in. That's quite exceptional. Early in the morning. Two queues, of course, men, women, equally long. Surprised me a little bit. I thought there would be more women, less men, but no, actually the same. Inside, people using the space not as a conventional library necessarily. They're in groups, they're in twos, or they're alone. Some people actually sleeping there. It's also okay. Work a bit, sleep a bit, enjoy the space. Everyone really enjoying the space, the big space, and that's what's really special about Alexandria. It is the big space. It's bigger than a normal room. It's bigger than itself, is what we would say. It's more of a landscape. You can look in a long distance, focus on the far away things. And that's what really then helps your imagination to work when you're focusing a long way away. But this combination of all ages, all types of people using it in very, very different ways. It's a social space. It's not a private space. It's really a genuine public space. The Library of Alexandria project was a sort of, it is a fairy tale. And then that we would win that competition and get the chance to actually build that building, the whole thing was a fairy tale. Fits very well into Snøhette's story and our history and our sort of philosophy. This thing that's a dream in a way. So it was really important for me personally as a young architect then to be involved in that fairy tale, be involved in making that a real piece of architecture. And it, of course, went through many phases, many periods here in Oslo, down in Cairo doing the design, and then on the building site in Alexandria. All of them really fascinating in their own way. But just like the building itself is full of so many different people, different personalities, the story of the design was also full of so many people, so many personalities we got to interact with in different ways. The design of any building is full of problems, challenges, if you like. That's what it's all about. There are so many people involved. There are bound to be conflicts. There are bound to be challenges. Alexandria was certainly no different in that respect. I think the most interesting, of course, was the cultural challenge. We're coming from Norway, Europe, interacting with most of the designers and the client and the users who are Egyptian, and how that played out at different times during the process, and our ability to actually engage with a different culture, different people, different way of doing things. And I think that that was always really funny. And working in Egypt is full of challenges. Some of them are big issues about the building, about the costs, about the construction. Some of them are very small. And I think it's often, when we were working down there, it was often the very, very small problems that were the biggest problems. Just getting simple, small things done in a culture you don't really understand, and finding out how to do that, how to get a piece of paper, how to get something printed, how to get samples or to talk to experts. Those were the challenges that were maybe the most difficult and certainly the most numerous. Impossible to list out all the problems, challenges we had. One of the funniest ones, but one quite serious ones, was the bridge across the road. So we have a walkway that should link the ocean across the plaza into the library, through the library, across the main road, and then into the university. So this is out in the construction period, quite a long way into the building, and we built the bridge at the specified height above the road with traffic underneath. And we wanted this, of course, to be one strong line. So it really wanted to be one straight line, or sloping line, if you like, but not one that went up and down. Very important graphic, I think, in the image at the library. So we built the bridge at the right height, and then I came back the next morning. I think the bridge was finished, and already the next morning, some vehicle had collided into the bridge and damaged the bridge. So we had to redesign the bridge. So it turns out that in Egypt, yes, there are lorries, and the lorries have the standard height. But then if you put all sorts of stuff on top of the lorries, which they do, the lorry gets higher. So we had to redesign the bridge, unfortunately. So if you go there now, you'll see a little flight of steps up when the bridge goes up at a high level. We made many, many friends during the period we were there. It was a long period. First, the period in Cairo, we were doing the design, living down in Cairo. I had my first son was then at that point just 1 year old, I think. He celebrated his first birthday in Cairo. And those friendships were really important. People who looked after him, the nursery school where we sent him to. These people became a part of our lives. I'm not really now so much in contact with them. But also our contractor, Dr. Hamza, our main partner down there, was also a big part of our journey in Egypt. And we've managed to hold contact with him over quite a long period and quite a difficult period in the history of Egypt. And then traveling down there just 6 months ago to meet some of these people again, well, it's like meeting old friends, a reunion, quite emotional. I think we've discussed a lot over the years about whether we undertook the design in the right way. I think it was inevitable that we did it the way we did it. I say that the project really is a fairy tale. And I think it was inevitable that we moved the office down to Egypt to do the design. And we started off doing the design from Oslo, and actually that was pretty effective. We arranged meetings with the Egyptian consultants. They would come up, we would go down, and everything was quite effective. We thought moving the office down to Cairo would be the most efficient possible way to undertake the design. Probably it was the opposite. It made things much more difficult. So if you're looking for pure efficiency, we should have stayed in Oslo and just made effective trips down. made decisions, come back up, done the work, get it done. But living down there, working every day, 9 to 5, with the local team, gave so much more, I think, and so much more insight into what a building in Egypt is about, how it can work, how it can relate to the users. So I'm very glad that we did it that way. Probably not the most efficient. My stories really would all be about the process of designing it, the everyday life of being in Cairo, the everyday frustrations of being in Cairo and working together, and then the construction period, which was a longer period, but where we travelled down to Alexandria, regularly spent time on the site. I think those stories are quite different ones, more personal about the people we engaged with in Cairo, more interesting, anecdotal, maybe the ones on site. We talked about the bridge. I think that's a classic one where you think you designed to criteria, but the criteria don't exist down there. So much happened during the building site period. One of the more interesting stories is about the animals there, the wildlife. There's maybe two I could talk about. One is the rats. There are rats everywhere in the world, so it's not really just an Egyptian thing. But right next door to our site was the old hospital. The hospital was a really rather ugly building and definitely spoiled the skyline of the library. So the patron of the library, Cesar Mubarak, came up one day and says, "We're going to demolish the hospital." So next day they started demolishing the hospital. Things happen when she speaks. So the building came down, and then it turns out that when they took down the building, there was an awful lot of rats that didn't have a place to live. So of course the rats, they just moved into the neighbouring site, which was our site, and really took over the whole building. So we had a period on the construction site where half the time we were actually trying to catch the rats. And they came in different sizes, of course, and different ways of catching them. So they found out that the most effective way to catch the rat was to put down pieces of foam board with glue on it, super glue or glue, and then the rats would actually stick to the foam board, and then you could come and kill them the next day. But this one day, the king rat came, the biggest rat of the whole pack, got stuck on the foam, on the glue, but they really couldn't kill it. They were sort of hitting it, bashing it, couldn't kill the rat. He was still living. So someone got some petrol, poured it onto the rat, and then set fire to the rat. That melted the foam board, so the rat could then run away in flames behind him into the building site. Quite horrible, but amazing to see. The other one was the birds. There are some big crows there. It's on the sea. Beautiful big wings, large birds. And this was to do with the roof design. We were doing the cladding at the roof, the aluminium cladding at the roof, making sure that is watertight, putting in the silicone gaskets in all the joints, very beautifully designed to keep the water out. And then we came back to the side, and we could see at the top of the roof there was always a bunch of these big black birds. And then you looked very carefully at them from the distance, and you saw they were pecking down the roof, and it turns out they were eating the silicone. So as fast as we were doing the silicone jointing, every evening the birds would come back and eat it, take it away. So this, you wouldn't expect that, but in Egypt, everything can happen. First of all, I think that the library is one of the biggest buildings, cultural buildings in the world, and then Snøhetta starting its practice, starting this office on the background of a huge culturally important building in the Middle East is quite a statement and really set the tone for the whole of this office. It was a fairy tale. It was beyond belief that we could win it, and beyond belief, certainly of many people, that we could actually build it. So the fact that we were pushing the boundary, we were building the dream already right from the getaway, the get-go, we were doing this sort of project. We didn't start by doing your friend's villa or somebody else's hut or the little commercial building down the street. We started with the biggest, the most important cultural institution in the world. And a building that a lot of people said couldn't be built, wouldn't be built. It was built, and it was amazing. I think that set the tone for Snurda and continues to set the tone for all of our work. It is incredible that it happened. And I think that we push the boundaries of what is credible. Certainly, I think that that project has changed the status of architecture in Norway, lifted it an awful lot. It's certainly very relevant very relevant today. It continues to be relevant in the work that we do and the work that people want us to do and the reputation that this company has. It's all about public space. And that becomes more and more interesting as we progress. The interest in the building in Asia, for example, now is huge. People love that building. People love the spaces and the gestures that gives back to the city. It's more than just a library. It's not just a place to store and read books in. It's a place to create a cultural community. And that's why it's relevant today. It has embodied in it the same values that you'll find across the street here at the Oslo Opera House, for example. Its relationship to the city, its relationship to the skyline, and the extent of genuine public space. So it's certainly affected all of our work since, and I think has become a reference point for very many people around the world as to how to work with that sort of space, how that sort of space can be relevant for the wider community, the city, the neighborhood, the communities, and that architecture is much, much more than just a function, things to solve, a private entity. It is actually a public discipline. It's about public space, whether that's inside the library or out in the plaza or out in the city of which it is a part. More and more relevant, particularly now. Particularly, I think, in places where I work in Asia. For me, transpositioning is about stepping out of your own sphere of expertise. Architecture, design is so broad, and yet we do have our own specialities. And we think we know everything about those specialities, be that landscape, be that interior, be that product design, or whatever it is, architecture, for that matter. And yet we need to talk to each other and work together. If we're too much in our own field of comfort and our own field of speciality, we become the expert. And the expert isn't necessarily the right person for creating concepts, ideas, and visions. So by stepping out of your own field, out of your comfort zone, if you like, into another one, allows us to be on the same field and to have ideas and views and thoughts about all of these spectrums without thinking we know everything because we're the experts and we've done it before. So it's to get away from this whole we've done this before and it doesn't work point of view to, oh, that's interesting, what can come out of that? Singular and plural is important for me personally. Architecture is not about singularities. It's not about one person. It's always about more than one person. And spaces that are generous, spaces that include the plural, is important that we experience together. The Library of Alexandria is a beautiful example of that. We experienced the library room together. It would be pretty weird to be there on your own. The experience is there by being together with other people at the same time. That is the same for landscapes. That's the same for many other functions. The opera, also the same. We're not there alone. We're there with other people. We might not know those other people. We might be in a wider group, but we do it together. We are there together with other people. But we are still the singular experiencing it, but we're experiencing it together. Now you can translate that into our design process as well, that we work in groups, we work in teams. We never really work alone, very rarely. But by working in the team, you don't lose your individuality. You don't lose your individual personality. And I think that's what's really key. We're not a sort of military unit. We're working in teams of individuals and looking after the individual person within the bigger team is what makes for a good process or a good building. Constant state of reinvention is maybe misinterpreted by very many people. But on the other hand, it also gives room for many interpretations, which is a good thing. I think it's important not to always just do the same thing you did last time and think that it's going to work again, because it probably isn't, because every situation, every project we come into is actually a unique one, because it's a unique discussion. It's always a discussion, but it's a unique discussion between different individuals. They are not just our designers, they're also our clients, our users, consultants, whoever it might be. So each discussion is unique, it's different. So you might think that if we just do it the same way as we did it before, it's going to be good. It might not work. It almost certainly won't work, because you've ignored a whole series of connections within that bigger group. So I think you always have to think back to the baseline, back to the white sheet of paper and the unique discussion that you're about to start with a unique group of people. That means you do actually have to reinvent yourself. You cannot take yourself from the last project, put it into the new project. You do have to start from a fresh sheet of paper. Doesn't mean to say you can't learn things from the past and use them in the future, but you do have to reset, reinvent, if you like, to move ahead. What got us here won't necessarily get us there. We have to refine what's right for this particular project in this particular group.